Welcome to In the Booth here. I'm Joel Klatt. This is sponsored by Dr. Pepper. Remember, at every home gate and tailgate, it is the one that fans crave. Well, we just got done calling a wild one here in Austin, Texas. 42-41, West Virginia is able to beat University of Texas and really stake a claim for what can be considered a real control spot in that Big 12 championship game come the first week of December. Now, they still have to play OU. That's later in the year, but those two teams look like they might be on a collision course to play the last week of the season and then the very next week in the Big 12 championship game, so that can be interesting. But let's focus on this game first. My goodness, what a game. 8 lead changes, 1,100 yards of total offense, no turnovers, 10 total touchdowns in this ball game. I thought both teams played unbelievably well on offense. Both quarterbacks played great. Will Grier just played a little bit better. And really, he had the ball last. That's what it came down to. He was sensational in this ball game. He had 48 yards of passing. He had 3 touchdowns. He ran in the 2-point conversion, and that's where I'd like to start. Let's start by talking about what West Virginia has been through in the last couple of years. And Mountaineer fans, you know what I'm talking about, and I've talked at length with Dana Holgorsen about this. He has been waiting for this team. He's been waiting for this group of older veteran leaders to have a chance to do something special, and they're doing it. Yes, I understand they didn't play well at Iowa State, and that was, at least up to this point, an aberration, and they've played well in almost every other game since and before. But he's been waiting for this group, and he's been pointing at this. He used to tell me 2 years ago, he's like, hey, you know, we'll try our best this year, but 2 years from now, Joel, you watch out. We're going to be really good. Last year, he's like, yeah, we've got a shot. We're going to be good offensively. Will's a great player, but wait until next year when we're really good, when our leaders are better and they've got all that experience, and those veterans can make plays for us on the outside, in particular a guy like David Sills. And guess what? Now it's time. He's in November after waiting for 2 years for this group to make a championship run. There was no question in his mind, nor should there be in any of our minds, about whether he was going to go for it on the 2-point conversion or not. He told the offense before they went on the field, you're going to go down the field, you're going to score, and then we're going to go for 2. I love it. I love that mentality. That's the way that they played. They played with a chip on their shoulder, and they did it in the face of some adversity with their starting left tackle, Kajus, getting ejected from the game early in the game. They overcame a lot of penalties in this ballgame. In fact, they had 14 penalties for over 120 yards in this ballgame, and they were able to overcome that. They did not turn the ball over, which was a quality deal for them. They were able to run it with a banged-up offensive line and a backup in at left tackle. Pettaway was tremendous. Pettaway ran for 121, 13 a pop. He also had 2 touchdowns in this ballgame. David Sills was tremendous. He had 97 yards through the air. But then you look up there, and I'm just looking at the stat box right now. You've got Sills, Sims, McCoy, all with over 50 yards receiving. So they were spreading the Texas defense out. And at the end of the game, you knew it was going to happen. Dana Holgorsen was going to put his horses on the field and let them run, and that's exactly what he did. Kudos to him. I thought it was absolutely the right call. I thought Texas did a great job of trying to adjust, call timeout, cover up what was going to be an inefficiency. They did not allow a freshman to go against David Sills on that one that looked like it was the 2-point conversion. They came out and adjusted. Todd Orlando made a nice adjustment, but Will Grier ultimately just made a better read on that play. That was not a designed run from him. He's trying to throw the ball over to the right side where they had the man coverage on the right side with 4 wide receivers, and he didn't like it, and then all of a sudden a little space opens up because all the defenders in the secondary were watching David Sills, and he's able to walk into the end zone. A remarkable play from Will Grier in order to keep this season alive for a Big 12 championship potentially for West Virginia. And you never know. You never know about the playoff. They're not going to have that 13th data point because they got the game with North Carolina State canceled. They don't have a chance to just make up that game because they're likely going to be in the Big 12 championship. And so we'll see how this season finishes out. If I'm on the playoff committee, I'm watching this game, and there's no possible way I can justify continuing to keep West Virginia down below some of these teams, in particular a 2-loss Florida. And that's where I'd like to go next. First, let me finish off West Virginia. West Virginia fans, your team is fantastic. Will Grier is absolutely in the Heisman Trophy race. He proved it again today. If those 2 guys at the top of this race stumble at all, this guy might walk away with the award. He certainly should be in New York, and he was phenomenal today. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, let me just wrap it up for Texas. I thought Texas played really hard. They played really well. Too many injuries on that side of the football on the defensive side ultimately cost them because they were unable to produce any pressure on Will Grier. And in the end, what did he have to throw the ball to Gary Jennings? Time. He had time, moves up in the pocket, throws a dime down the field, and then Texas loses the ball game. But boy, they played hard. They played really well at times, really well. I know you'll lament the third down spot before the fourth down play of Sam Ehlinger. I thought that the third down spot was a bad spot, and Colin Johnson probably got the first down, and you would have had first and goal inside the 5. They didn't give him that. Then Texas rushes up to the line of scrimmage, runs a fourth down play before a review can be made, and Ehlinger falls short. They reviewed that play, and I thought the review was actually correct, that he did not make the line to gain. So you can't be mad at that as much as you can be mad at the third down call. The officiating overall was horrendous in this ball game. Absolutely horrendous. Maybe the worst officiated game that I've broadcast in my career. 2 times they had defensive holding on a defensive lineman. I mean, give me a break. Stop calling that. That's a ridiculous penalty that should never get called unless it's egregious and you pull the lineman down to the ground. It's an interior play, and they're going to grab, they're going to hold to a certain extent, and you just have to make sure that it's not egregious. So that's what I would say about the officials. I thought they were horrendous, and they should probably get reprimanded from the Big 12 Conference for the way that they officiated this ball game. Now let's move forward. The College Football Playoff Committee came out with their rankings on Tuesday. I said that there were some teams overvalued and some teams undervalued, and what happened, that was proven out to be correct. Kentucky overvalued. They got beat pretty handily by Georgia. Florida overvalued. They were the best 2-loss team in the country, the committee liked to tell us. Above this 1-loss West Virginia team, what happened? They went out there and got absolutely smacked by Missouri. That's the same Missouri team that should have beaten Kentucky the previous week, save for a bad officiating error at the end of that game. Then you've got Virginia. By the way, why in the world was Virginia ranked? Can somebody please tell me, show me one set of data that would suggest, one game of film, one set of data that would suggest that Virginia should have been ranked over teams like Wisconsin or Michigan State or even Purdue, which, by the way, Purdue got a nice win today as they beat ranked Iowa. How in the world is Purdue not ranked over Virginia? And every metric that you could possibly look at, any data set that you could possibly look at, all of those teams were a far better team than Virginia, and yet all of a sudden the committee comes out and ranks Virginia for what reason? I don't know. I guess because Frank Beamer is the loudest voice in the room. I'm going to call on 2 guys. One is Gene Smith, the athletic director from Ohio State. The other is Joe Castiglione, the athletic director for Oklahoma. They're on the committee. Don't allow Frank Beamer to ride roughshod over this committee in terms of putting the ACC teams in the back end. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. By the way, North Carolina State, I don't think they should be ranked. I don't think Syracuse should be ranked just for beating a bad Wake Forest team. And what we know now is that you don't have to bolster Clemson's resume. Why? Because they are beating teams by a margin that is staggering. Right now in their last 4 ball games, Clemson is winning those ball games by 240 to 36. Plus 204 in the scoring margin for Clemson, an average of a 51-point win. They don't need your help, committee. They're going to be in the playoff anyways. Welcome to the playoff, Clemson Tigers. Well done, because you're going. Listen, you can book it. Clemson fans, book it, man. You're in the playoff. Who from the ACC is beating you? I'll wait. Exactly. No one's beating them. And South Carolina, I don't think, is going to beat them in that out-of-conference game at the end of the year. I really don't. Clemson, book it, man. You're going. You're in the college football playoff. Another team that looks really strong right now, Michigan. All you people hating on me because I told you at the beginning of the year and throughout the season that Michigan is for real, that even though they lost that first week to an undefeated Notre Dame team, that they are for real. Well, guess what they've done? They've gone out there and just gone on their revenge tour like you can't believe. Their last 4 Big Ten games, by the way, Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan State, they are playing outrageous football. In those 3 games, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Penn State, they've outscored those opponents 101 to 27. At the time of the game, all of those opponents were ranked. So maybe we can put to bed this whole notion that Jim Harbaugh is not a good coach and he doesn't win big games, because they're clearly doing that. They drilled Penn State. The last time Penn State lost by a score or more was at Michigan 2 years ago in 2016. Their 5 losses since have all been within a score until today. They went out there and got absolutely blown out by a rested Michigan team. That Michigan team, by the way, I think it's going to be hard to keep them out of the 4 spot, candidly. I mean, listen, Alabama or LSU is going to lose. And I really don't care what happens in that game. Even if it's Alabama, I think Michigan's resume is better to this point than even Alabama if they were to lose tonight to LSU. I don't think they're going to lose. So once LSU loses, they're going to be a 2-loss team. I think Michigan is your 4th team in the rankings. You got the 3 undefeateds, save for Notre Dame maybe holding on against Northwestern, and then you would have Michigan at number 4. I would put Oklahoma at number 5. We'll see how they handle Lubbock tonight against Texas Tech. But Michigan is certainly right there. By the way, Nebraska played really well and really hard against Ohio State on the road in the shoe. They ended up losing. I believe that ball game was something like 36-31, if I'm not mistaken. So Nebraska played really well, but Ohio State gets the win, and they stay as just a 1-loss team, which means if they can get to that final stage and be just a 1-loss team facing Michigan, can you imagine how big that game will be in Columbus when Gus and I and Ginny and the rest of our Fox crew show up for that ball game Thanksgiving week? It will be massive. I trust Michigan to get there, in particular with the schedule that they've got in front of them. I don't know about Ohio State, the way that they're playing. They get basically drilled by Purdue. Then they have an off week, and they come out and win by 5 against Nebraska, who's a 2-win ball club. And now they're going to have to go to Michigan State, a game that we'll likely go out and call in East Lansing next week. They've got Maryland, if I'm not mistaken, down the stretch. And they've got Michigan. So there's a chance that you could lose 3 ball games still in this season, Ohio State, if you continue to play the way that you've been playing. All right. Elsewhere in college football, the SEC, Georgia is going to clinch their spot in the SEC championship game by beating Kentucky today, a very overrated Kentucky team. But Georgia did exactly what all of us thought that they were going to do, which was go out there and win the SEC East. So they've already sewn that up. And remember this when I tell you, college football fans, the SEC in the middle of their conference is vastly overrated. They are unbelievable at the top. I think they're the best conference at the top. Alabama, LSU is very good. Georgia is very good. Not many teams in college football can play with and beat those teams. Maybe just a handful of teams could be in there and play competitively against those 3. Everybody else is pretty average. Can we stop overrating the SEC? That's all I'm asking. Can we stop with the confirmation bias in the committee? Can we stop with the highest 1-loss team has got to be an SEC team, and the highest 2-loss team has got to be an SEC team, and the highest 3-loss team has got to be an SEC team? Can we just value college football equally across the country? That's all I'm asking for. And it shouldn't be much. So you 13 people that get in your room on Monday night and Tuesday, please do us a service and actually watch the games, understand data sets, and rate teams accordingly, rather than just the confirmation bias and really lack of ability that you did last week, because that was pretty pathetic. All right. That's going to do it for us from Texas, West Virginia. Big win. Huge win for Dana Holgorsen, maybe his biggest as the head coach of the Mountaineers thus far. They're in the driver's seat to get to Dallas. They win 42-41 over Tom Herman and the Texas Longhorns, who have now lost 2 in a row and 3 on the year. By the way, all 3 of those games have been a one-possession game. Maryland the first week, last week against Oklahoma State, and then this one a one-point affair here. Our show has been sponsored by Dr. Pepper. Remember, at every home gate and tailgate, it is the one that fans crave. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Hit me up on Twitter at Joel Klatt. You can like what I said, not like what I said. The bottom line is this. All of us love college football because this is a fantastic sport, and enjoy the rest of the night. Enjoy that Bama LSU game. I know I will. Have a good one.